In high school in Pennsylvania, in college at West Virginia, and in the NFL for 12 years, Anthony Becht was a reliable go-to tight end. A mature guy who coaches like, and he started with the Jets, and he's now doing their preseason games. He's got a podcast called Spit and Fire. I've been watching him as a color analyst. He used to work at the place I used to work at, ESPN as well, and we bring him via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. The former first-round pick with over a decade in the NFL. So I've had Shannon Sharpe and Anthony Becht on today. I'm giving love to tight ends. So let's start, Anthony, with this. You were a dependable player, not always flashy. You could block, you could catch. Coaches liked you. And I think that's an underrated part of NFL football because the league is getting younger. So with most of these quarterbacks, Anthony, I'm like, they need to sit a year. But I met Sam Darnold 3 years ago, and I said on the air, he's different. He's a grown-up. This is why I fell in love with Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck. How much of Darnold's personality is impressing the Jets? How much of his game is impressing the Jets coaches?
Everything. I think you're exactly right. He is really, what he's brought to the table, in my opinion, is he's all ball. When he gets in the building, it's all ball. There's nothing else that's more important to him. He's only played 3 years at the quarterback position. He's 21 years old, and he's dived into this playbook, and he's mastered it. I've talked to him the last couple of weeks before the games, and he said, I'm just dialed into every single scenario, everything that the Jets have thrown at me, and he's been on top of that. And you've heard Todd Bowles and Jeremy Bates, the coordinator, talk about that week in and week out. His accuracy on the move, his intelligence of the game and just playing the position for 3 years, his scrambling ability, his movement skills, his ability to pre-snap read too. And he had a bunch of scenarios in the preseason so far where there's been some blitzes or he's gotten off the 1 and the 2 and he's had a plan. He gets it to the check down. He gets it to the crossing tight end. He hits Terrell Pryor when 2 tight ends are running double posts on the backside in the red zone and Pryor gets the ball underneath and he becomes the guy that scores the touchdown against the Giants. So those things have been unbelievable. I firmly have been a guy, I'm a little old school, Colin. I don't really like thrusting rookie quarterbacks on the field. I think he's demonstrated everything that you want in a young quarterback to make you feel good and comfortable. But I will hesitate that this is the NFL. This is a league of intricate defenses. It is not easy. He's not on the Patriots. He's not coming on the team that just went to the Super Bowl. He's on the Jets, a team that's young, that's building, and that really is gravitating to him. That's another thing, too. Are his teammates believing in what he can do on the field and day-to-day in practice that they feel comfortable him? He even has that going for him. But even with that all said, there is a luxury with the Jets right now. They have 3 starting quarterbacks on their roster. And just because of that luxury, I think the risk outweighs the reward of starting him now and one of these other 2 guys and letting him learn and grow for the future. But there's no question, all those intangible things I just talked about is what is leading the coaching staff, the organization, and even me at times believing he can get it done.
Now, Anthony, it's not a great offensive line. Their tight end spot's not loaded. Running back's pretty meager. I do think their wide receivers, if Robbie Anderson can give me 16 games, the receiving core may be better than I give him credit for. Could I make the argument, though, that Teddy Bridgewater on the open market could get me a draft pick and an offensive lineman, that Darnold's good enough to roll the dice and Teddy can get you stuff on the market? Could I make that argument?
There's no question Teddy can get you something on the market. I don't know if the market's set to get the maximum value for him right now because I don't know if anybody really needs Teddy Bridgewater. They may be enticed to have Teddy on their team and maybe not loving their current position, but he definitely, the more he's played, the more he shows, becomes a huge asset for a lot of teams in the NFL. For me, Teddy is, when you look at this quarterback situation across the board, I got to look and ask 2 questions. Is there any quarterback on this team that's head and shoulders above anybody else? That's the guy you should play. If you look at the course of history, Aikman, he was head and shoulders against, I think it was Steve Walsh. There's no question. He's playing. Peyton Manning, head and shoulders against, was it Kelly Holcomb was the guy behind him? No question. Andrew Luck, same thing. He's still in question what his future lies, but at the time, he's the guy. Or are they all the same across the board where you can pick and choose? To me, his upside is bigger than both of Josh and Teddy. I think he brings a lot to the table, but he hasn't done anything yet,
Yeah.
to be quite honest with you, in a real game. Teddy Bridgewater, to me, is the guy that, okay, he's young, he's 25, he's healthy, he looks great, he's been accurate. His stats have been equally as good as Sam, playing with threes and sometimes four in the preseason game. And he's been to a Pro Bowl, and he's led a team to the playoffs, and he's still 25. So, listen, you have some valuable options there to help the growth and development. And we haven't really talked about the other things that restrict quarterbacks. I mean, there's a nightmare situation brewing here with 3 games in, 10 or 11 days to start your rookie career. That's tough ask. You know, I played with Chad Pennington. He was a first-round pick. If you ask him straight up if he was ready to start, he'd say he knew the playbook. He had everything it took to be the starter, but he wasn't ready for that grind. And we had Vinny Testaverde there, and he was able to grow and come into that position when he was ready. And also, I'd love to have Sam Darnold ask great questions or ask dumb questions or even make mistakes in closed doors instead of maybe saying it in front of Rich Cimini or Steve Zerbe or some of these other players or other reporters that he's going to have to deal with every single week in the NFL after games. So there's a luxury there. You can go both ways, but you're right. The Jets are in a great position here, and this is going to be a tough decision.
Yeah. You know, I said this last week. We all know the good coaches, but there's always been a time in the NFL where good coaches, Belichick, Pete Carroll, got fired. One of the things I like about Darnold, I like Todd Bowles, and boy, am I in the minority on the internet. When you look at the quarterback instability he's faced, they won 5 games last year without much and had 6 one-possession losses, mostly to good teams. They beat playoff teams. I think Bowles is the rare NFL coach with a losing record that's actually a really good football coach. Now, I know you work for the Jets. It is harder for some people to be critical, but when I watch the Jets play, Anthony, I see a well-coached team without a ton of personnel. Am I wrong?
They're young. Number one, we got to start with that. Last year for me was eye-opening because you're right. They were in so many games last year, and it was really impressive. Listen, I was there day one when Todd Bowles entered the NFL from college football. In 2000, he was the defensive back coach for the Jets my rookie year, and I saw the same guy then that I see now, but I see a guy that's grown in so many aspects. He was able to coach under guys like Bill Parcells, Al Groh, Bruce Arians. He's earned his stripes every single year, becoming positional coach to a defensive coordinator, and then again a defensive coordinator. And now he's prepared himself for this position. It doesn't surprise me at all that the players, the people in the building, everybody embraces him. Now, he doesn't have the starstruck Gruden, the Herm Edwards cliches or any of that stuff, but Todd is well-liked, very smart, and a very, very detailed head coach. And you're right, only 5 wins last year. They had a strong first year when he was there, but I think they're growing a very strong nucleus. The fundamentals and the interiors of this team, the positive sense in the locker room is very strong. Even though they're a young team, they have a good mix of veteran players, and you'll see improvement across the board. Their defense will be much improved this year with the secondary and some of the pieces they add, the linebacker position, and their draft picks. We only talk about Sam Darnold, but I think Sam Darnold, I think Nathan Shepard, a very underrated defensive lineman from Fort Hays State, he'll be a starter game 1 heading into the season. So they have some pieces there that they can build on along with some of the guys they have now. Anthony
Becht, talented guy, former NFL tight end, doing Jets games. You'll hear a lot more from him. We appreciate you stopping by. You did a great job for us.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Anytime.
You bet. Got good insight. You know, it is interesting, as he pointed out. The Darnold thing's complicated because the Teddy Sam gap's not much. They've got winnable games early. You can get stuff for Teddy Bridgewater. Like, I think Tyrod Taylor-Baker, I see a gap. Flacco Lamar, I see a gap. Bradford Rosen, I see a gap. The gap with this one now is small. I do think Teddy's better today. But, you can make this argument too, Joy. Play Teddy, because he's off an injury. Show him off. If you start looking at the Jets defense and who they face in the first month, you could win 3 games. This is not like the Browns who open up with the Steelers and the Saints and you're going 0-2. Like, the Jets could open up with either of these quarterback winning games. And it's a very valid argument to say, we're going to put Teddy on tape for the league, go 3-1. Now, maybe with Darnold, you go 3-1 or 2-2, but we're going to just show Teddy off. We're going to put him, you drive by the car dealership in the window, they put the nice cars. We're going to show Teddy off for a month.
Well, that could backfire too.
What
if
he
doesn't play well, or if he gets hurt,
then you don't get anything for him.
And Darnold is definitely the future of the franchise. So
it's a really complicated situation with the Jets. I can't wait for it. Now, a lot of you are saying, Colin, you're just rooting for Darnold because you have been the guy that's been on him. I'm rooting for all these guys because if you ever watched a football game with bad quarterback play, mostly no, because it's unwatchable. I don't want any of these guys to bust. Like, you look at the NFC right now, if Rosen's the real deal, like, you don't have a single NFC team without their future quarterback. If Trubisky, and I've got my reservations, if Trubisky ends up being okay, and I'm kind of on the fence on that, everybody in the NFC has got a guy. It never works out. There's always like 3 teams within a conference that are bailing water at quarterback. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.